Right, Arsenal. Eidevall's exit. We're a week on. They began life without Eidevall with a 4-1 victory over Valerenga in their second Champions League group game. Emily Fox tapped one home inside 2 minutes, and she revealed after the game that Eidevall's address to the players last Tuesday was very sad and emotional. It's been a tough week, hasn't it? I think for Arsenal, kind of going through this huge transition, losing a manager who's been with them for the past 3 years. I think everyone sort of got to the point where the fans' frustration was growing. You could kind of see the player frustration going, and then obviously you kind of had Jonas leaving, and then the kind of speculation about who was going to be replacing them, and then also sort of a lot of debate around sort of some of the criticism and abuse and things that have been levied at the players. There's been sort of a lot of discourse and discussion around sort of general women's football culture in this space that we kind of touched on in the last pod. Amidst all this kind of noise, Arsenal have kind of had to pick themselves up and go again straight into their Champions League game. I mean, to be fair to them, a 4-1 victory, even despite obviously being over Valerenga, is still a really confident, lovely message of the players kind of grouping around themselves, literally having 24 hours to recover from that news and still getting and grinding out a really lovely result. And I think, I wasn't at that game, but I think that you could see in the players' reactions after the game, it still felt quite emotional. And I think credit to Renee for stepping in, so last minute. I think she was only given about 3 hours notice herself. But they did feel like it was a team that was starting to recover in a way, I think, from everything that had gone on. But Rach, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think actually having those two fixtures, you could draw whether it was going to be difficult fixtures or, in inverted commas, easy fixtures. But to follow that up with two fixtures that you were expected to win is pressure, and people are expecting, okay, we all think the manager might have been the issue and not getting the best out of you. Well, he's gone now and we expect you to win these games. So there was pressure going into those games. So I think for them to come out with the win, to score 6 goals across the 2 games is much needed. I still think some of the issues maybe are still there in terms of, particularly in the West Ham game, in some of those creativity moments, and the goal scoring in the West Ham game. They should have scored more, and sometimes that's switching off the back. So they won't be fixed overnight, but I think there was probably a bit of I won't say new manager bounce, because she's not a new manager, but she's someone else stepping in. There will have been an element of that, but you do have to factor in there would have been a lot of pressure on them this week to go out and perform and to win those matches. So to tick off those 2 wins, I think will ease some of the stresses and the pressure on their shoulders.
Yeah, definitely. And I think considering a lot of the criticism was being levied at the front line in terms of them not sort of, be able to convert chances, not scoring, going back on themselves, not being able to find the back of the net. I think, to then go and score 6 goals is also kind of a bit of a message that they can do it. It's just confidence, guys. Like, you've got this. So they beat West Ham 2-0 in the WSL at the weekend. Rosa Kafaji got her first goal for Arsenal. She came on in the 58th minute and scored in the 89th, which was a really, really beautiful moment. Listener Aidan has asked, how rude, what's Rachel's thoughts on Kafaji getting player of the match for Arsenal? Wink, smiley face.
Well, that's obviously because I got totally set up on social media when the listeners were asked about whether a player should get player of the match, as Michelle Adjumang had for Brighton. What was left out was the fact that Michelle Adjumang came on in the 88th minute and scored the 4th goal in a 4-2 win. It's totally different to a player coming on in the 58th minute. Actually, I think when she came on, there was such a difference. She made such a difference. I'm surprised she hasn't been involved more. But, that directness, that creativity that Arsenal had been lacking, she really brought a lot of that. She brought a real energy. And you could see the goal came from a beautiful ball over to Blackstenius into Kafaji. A really, really nice piece of play. And it was a winning goal. So, I totally understand her getting the player of the match. Is an entirely different situation. But I do think, she offered something maybe that's been...
Aidan.
She's offered something I think that Arsenal had been missing across previous games. So I was surprised maybe that she hadn't been used more, as I said. But I think that actual passage of play is something that Arsenal maybe haven't been doing enough. Sometimes that that build-up play is slowed down a bit with all the passes, and it allows the defending team to get back and set up and fill the box and make it difficult to get through. And actually that was such a quick passage of play, 1, 2, 3, goal. Hopefully that's kind of something Arsenal can try and do more of.
Oh, 100%. And I think it feels like, in a way, whilst the pressure was on them to kind of perform, it still feels like there was a little bit of pressure that was taken off. I think like it's hard to kind of like put into words, I think, what I mean by that, because like you said, like they did have to
Try,
do something.
Chloe, this is a podcast.
I know. I'm really struggling with this one, because it kind of feels like, okay, well, like now when you lose a manager, when something bad happens to the team, there's a kind of expectation, I think, sometimes that, okay, well, they're kind of given a grace period to like not perform well, or to kind of like, you know, they've lost their way a bit.
They
have an excuse to kind of like, I don't know, not perform at the standard that they're going to be expected. And I still don't think Arsenal were anywhere near the peak of what their potential of what they can achieve. So I think, yeah, credit to them getting these wins, but it still feels like quite flat in the Arsenal squad just generally, which is totally understandable given kind of what they've been through. I do think there is this like lovely momentum and narrative building around Renée Slegers, who is not a person. So she stepped in as the interim head coach following Jonas's departure. Not a lot of people really know too much about her. She's one of those kind of like maybe silent assassins who's kind of go along in the background, and like loads of people are still trying to sort of like catch up with like who she is and what she's done and like where she's played and who she's played with and what her experience is. So thankfully enough, like one of my colleagues did a little bit of a deep dive on her, so I'm just going to run you through like a couple of the stats just to give some context about like who this person is, because I think people are still kind of like, who is this shining beacon who's taken Arsenal out of this like quite dark period into like these 2 games of light. So in 2006 to 2007, she played for Arsenal Youth. She played with Stina Blackstenius at Linköping, thank you. Between 2013 and 16, she has 55 caps for the Netherlands. She's only 35 years old. This is horrible. I mean, I'm 35 in 2 months and I've never managed a WSL club. She played at the Euro 2013. There's still time. She has coached Sweden's under-23 national team. She had to retire in 2018 due to a serious knee injury in 2016. And she won the league in charge of Rosengard in 2021 and 2022. So despite no one really knowing too much about her, she has a shit ton of history, this woman.
She took over from Jonas Eidevall, didn't she?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this
so I don't know whether there's necessarily a huge difference between the two, because I think, you know, she came because he brought her and he wanted her in with him. So it's hard to read a lot into it until maybe we see more. I don't know. Was she asked about whether she wanted the full-time job? Do you even say no to that?
I think she said that she was quite, it was unexpected news. And I don't think she'll ever sort of say, well, no, actually, fucking hell, I was quite happy being in the back room, but someone forced me into the front and now here I am. I mean, I think we'd all appreciate that kind of honesty. That probably is what she was thinking. But
if you
I suppose,
insist.
like, I think if Arsenal continue in this trajectory, there could be a lot of people calling for her to stay and see out the season and just see how it goes down. I mean, there's been so many speculation about who is going to take over from Arsenal. It's caused quite a lot of chaos online. Gareth Southgate's name has been thrown out there. We've had Casey Stoney, which doesn't look like it's going anywhere. We've had Carla Ward, again, doesn't look like it's going anywhere. Yeah, I mean, Rach, who are the names that are kind of on your radar at the moment for the takeover?
It's just manager roundabout, isn't it? We just spin 100%. Around every time someone gets sacked and just read out the same names again. So
I really enjoy it.
It's like
Tony Gustafsson.
Why not? Like, fuck it, throw him in the mix. Why not? Kelly Smith, like, she's there already. Maybe she could do it.
100%. Alex Ferguson, he's not managing anything at the moment. Just been kicked out of his board. His
Bring Jurgen Klopp
£500,000 a
back.
week. Yeah, 100%. He doesn't need Red Bull. I'm sure he'll take the £300 million pay drop to do that. But yeah, I am excited to see kind of like who they are going to announce. But I don't think I'd be that put out if Renée stayed on until Christmas just to see what happened. I mean, let's give her a chance. Like, she's got credentials. Let's go. Speaking of someone who does have a lot of credentials, Arsenal captain Kim Little got her 350th appearance against West Ham, which is wild. She is it 34 years old? Let me Google that.
What's mad as well is that she actually spent time away from the WSL. So to hit 350 is crazy. She's such a consistent player.
God.
And I think, you know, stepping away from the Scotland national team has probably helped elongate that as well.
Definitely. So she stepped away from the Scottish national team in 2021. Yeah, she is 34 years old, which is absolutely fucking wild. 350 appearances. Like, that is That is a ridiculous number. Did see a nice little touch from Adidas giving her like, congratulations Kim, Adidas F50 boots with like a little 350 on it as well, which is really, really sweet. She becomes their 4th most capped ever player. Yeah, and long may she reign to that 400 mark. I think it's like 415 or something that I think is the top. So yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. But yeah, congratulations to Kim Little. And also another milestone, Leah Volti made her 100th WSL appearance against West Ham. She's the 8th player at Arsenal to reach this milestone as well. So that doesn't even make sense. Leah Volti I still see as like this really young, up and coming kind of player. Like, how the hell is she on 100 appearances? Like, what's going on? Why did I get so freaking old?